Alright, hello everybody, and welcome to a video tutorial. This one is on color correction by the numbers, and there's some information about this in the lectures, but I just kind of wanted to run through this, show you how I do it. This is one method. There are more than one, but this is the one that I use, so let's go through this and see how we do it. So the first thing you want to do is go up to your eyedropper tool, and you want to click and hold it, get the flyout menu, and you want to go down here to Color Sampler Tool. Then you go up to Sample Size, and you drop down here. You don't want point sample because that's going to do it pixel by pixel. What you want is a 3 by 3 average. It's going to go 3 across and 3 down. It's going to average out those values, and it's going to give you something a little more accurate. Plus, it's kind of a nightmare to go through pixel by pixel and do the whole thing. So, now we want to pop up our info palette. I actually keep mine right here. But there's a couple different ways to do it. One is to go to View. Go to Window, not View. Go down here, just click Info. Oops, that wasn't info. Alright, anyway, we popped it up. But, sorry. I just got rid of my history, and I don't want to do that. Okay. So, that's one way. The other way is to simply hit either F8 or Function F8, depending on if your keyboard has multiple things. If your F8 just says F8 on it, you should be able to hit it. If it's got something else on it, like brightness or contrast control, a lot of times you have to hit Function or Alt or Command in order to get that to come up. Alright, so we got our color sampler tool, we have our sample size at 3 by 3, and we have our info palette. Now, what we're looking for is we're going to select 3 points, and we want these 3 points to be a highlight, a midtone, and a shadow. And again, for those of you who have looked at the lectures and the reading, you will know that a highlight is can be quantified as a number value, and it would be 255 here, 255 here, and 255 here. That's pure white, no details. A shadow is going to be 0, 0, 0. That's pure black, no details. And neutral midtone is going to be 128, 128, 128. So we're going to try and get as close as we can in here. The nice thing about the color sampler tool is that when you get it, you just click on it and it actually saves that point. I think a couple people were confused, thinking that you could somehow change these values through the info palette. You actually cannot. You have to add an adjustment layer in order to adjust them. So there's a little trick to finding the highlight and shadow, and that is by going to your adjustment layer palette and clicking on this one that says threshold. Alright, what this does is, oops, you only want to hit it once, not twice like I just did. Everything to the right of this is highlights. Everything to the left of this is shadows. And then threshold just pushes everything here into shadow and everything above here into highlights. The point, I mean, that's not necessarily something you need to know, but the point is you can drag this little arrow, oops, if you click on the correct button, you can drag it all the way to the left, and then you can slowly start to bring it back, and as soon as you get a little detail right there, bam, see this? These are our brightest areas of highlights. It's taken everything else, pushed it to shadow. So, what it's showing here is everything above 243, which is, you know, a bright highlight. So actually what I like to do is sometimes I'll pop this down here so that we can look at both the adjustment panel here and the info palette. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and zoom in on this guy and scroll down. So here's our areas here, and what we're looking for is as close as we can get to 255. Now, not every image is going to have 255. Not every image is going to have highlights with no detail on them. Actually, really, your image shouldn't have highlights with no details in them because you always want, in every exposure, a little bit of details in your highlights. So actually, let's see, so what we're looking at here, you just want to look at the numbers on the left. On the left-hand side down here. The numbers on the right really don't mean much to us at this point. So we want to get, it's pretty good. So if you get something that's close, click on it. And remember, you want these values both to be as close as possible to 255 and as close as possible to each other. And I'm just going to look around. Oh, wow, that's even better. Okay. So now I have 2 points here, right? Oh, no, I'm sorry. It was close enough to the other one that I could just do it. Okay. So, yeah. So we're just looking for them to be both close together and as close as possible to 255. Alright. And so that's as high of a highlight as we're going to get. So, what I'm going to do now is zoom back out, Command 0 for Apple 0. And I'm going to come up here to my threshold. I'm going to drag it all the way to the left. Now we're just looking at our darkest shadows. And I'm going to pop it. There we go. Okay, here it is down here. That's pretty close. 333. 000 would be nice, but again, that would mean that you're having areas with absolutely no detail. Alright, 222. Oh, look at that. 111. That was pretty close. That's about as close as you're going to get. And now, we're done with this threshold palette, so we can simply throw it away. It was just to help us find those values. So now we have our highlight and our shadow. Those are actually the two easy ones to find. Now what we're looking for is our midtone. So again, we're looking for something that's gray with as little, basically as neutral as possible. And this usually takes a while. Looking at this, I'm going to say that's probably somewhere in here. If your image has a strong color cast, it's going to be super hard to find it. But basically, just do your best. Get these numbers as close to each other and as close to 128 as you can. And, I mean, basically, you don't want them to be more than, say, 10 points off from each other. And you want them to be as close as possible to oops. Excuse me, I have clumsy fat fingers here. Get rid of that guy. Did I mention that yet? Oh, in case I didn't mention it, if you hold down the Alt key and get right up on there, there's a little pair of scissors, and just click it, it goes away. So I'm going to take a little time here and just get as close as possible to that mid-tone value that I can. Alright, I was able to find one there. I paused it for maybe 5 or 6 minutes there while I was looking to get as close as possible. That's not always going to be that difficult to find your value, but sometimes it is. So, the point is that we get those values again as close to each other as possible and as close to that target value as we can. So, now that we've done this, again, as I said before, this is not editable through the info palette, and I think that's maybe what was throwing people off before. What you want for this is an adjustment layer. This is tough because on this particular image we have values that actually go above the histogram here, that go off the ends. So levels is not necessarily ideal. However, if you are new to this, if you haven't been doing this a ton, you probably want to start with levels. So that's actually how I'm going to show you here. Alright, so here's our info, and basically what we want to do is we're going to go channel by channel. So start with red, and we're going to take these values and get them as close to our target values as possible. Now, for this, if we made this 255, 255, 255, we would actually be going in the wrong direction. We want these to be not pure white highlights with no detail, but we actually want them to be closer to like 250, maybe 251. 250 is good because that's highlight with still some detail in it, but it's lighter than our lightest value that we could find here. So how we do that is, when I do it with levels, I like to start from the outsides, from your shadows and from your highlights, and move them in, and then adjust the gamut in the middle. Whoops. And the reason to do that is, as you adjust your highlights, as you pull these in towards the middle, your gamut is actually going to move around. But as you move your gamut around, it's not going to affect these guys. So I do usually shadows first, then highlights, then midtones. Again, one drawback of doing it this way is that we actually have, that's what this guy's telling us, we have information that's actually beyond this. So I'm not actually going to do much with these shadows. They're pretty well balanced. They got some detail in them. Anything I do here is simply going to be darkening the shadows because we're pulling in our low value. As opposed to here where we actually have a little space beyond the end of this. So what I'm going to do is actually start here. I'm going to start pulling it towards the center, and you're going to see our values start to get closer and closer to white. Right now it's at pure white. We don't want that. So we can either come back in here with this guy and just kind of fiddle around with it, or we can try just changing this value. Now see, that went a little bit high. We're at 151 right here. So let's try. Okay. Hey, perfect. All right. Sometimes it's not that easy. Now I'm going to take my gamut here, and I'm going to actually not do much to it. You can see just by moving our highlights in, we actually changed that gamut from where we wanted it to be, which was 128, up to 131. So we can move that and try and get that back to 128. Going the wrong way here. Okay. The other thing that we can do is, it can be, again, really tough to get that. We can try manipulating these numbers to do it. And we can, let's see, what happens if we go there? Perfect. Alright, 97. So, right there, pretty good. So we'll move on to our green value. And again, green is the next one down. Right now we're at 244, and we want it to be closer to 250. So let's see if it just works to do that. See? Not quite there. So we gotta go... Oh, wrong direction. Okay. Perfect. Alright. Boom. So, and you can see just doing that pulled this almost to where we want it to be. So let's see if we can't just eke it over a little bit. Oh, too much. Perfect. Alright, see that changed that to 128. Now, pop down to our blue. We do the same thing again. You know, just for fun. Let's try it. Let's see what happens. 50. Nope, not there. Okay, let's try 248. Getting closer. 245. Oops. I was actually looking at the wrong value there. But it got pretty darn close anyway. 245, 246. 247. Perfect. Okay. And now we're going to come back here and adjust our gamut. Wrong way. Alright. Bam. Okay, so what are we looking at here? We're looking at these numbers. Our highlights have detail in them. Our midtones are all squarely at 128, and our shadows have a little bit of detail in them. Again, we're a little bit limited because we're doing this on levels. You can do this in other things. You can actually do this in curves. It takes a little bit more work to do. And I would try doing it first in levels a few times just to kind of get the hang of it. And then when you feel real comfortable doing it there, try doing it in curves. But yeah, so let us do a little before and after. It's not a ton different, as you can see. But we just got rid of a little bit of a, you can see there's kind of a little bit of a pink cast to it that we just cleared right up there. It's pretty subtle. And I chose an image that wasn't going to be super hard simply for the sake of making a demonstration that didn't take 2 hours while we sat here and fiddled around with all the controls. But that is the basics of how to color correct by the numbers. Alright, so that is that demonstration. If you have any questions, absolutely feel free to email them to me. Otherwise, I hope this cleared up some questions people might be having, or sort of just added a little bit more depth to what was in the lecture notes, which is just a little bit. I mean, it tells you all this stuff, but it doesn't necessarily tell you how to do it. So yeah, I hope this was helpful.